Hi, welcome to The Truth with Tal and Isaac. It's our second episode. First off, we want to thank everybody for the overwhelming support for our first episode. We expected about 100 people tops. We're well over 500 on YouTube, plus a couple hundred more on Apple Podcast and Spotify. Thanks so much. We appreciate the comments, the feedback, and some of the criticism. Thank you. Isaac, why don't you run through the agenda?
So when we were doing today's prep, we had a couple things that we talked about putting in. The headliner being the John Wall, Russell Westbrook trade. We're not going to spend a lot of time on that because
everybody loses.
It's a lose-lose. Like as soon as we found out about it, we said every person, every team involved loses. So the only thing to come out of that, I think, is the implosion happening inside the Houston Rockets organization. James Harden's
I think within a month, Harden's in Philly.
Yeah, like he's going to get traded. It's a matter of to who and when. How quickly do they ship him off, I think.
I agree.
So we're not going to spend some time on that.
That's been covered by too many other people.
And then COVID in the NFL and college football. We're not going to talk about that because
everybody's tired of talking about COVID.
You've heard about COVID. So we're not going to talk about that on the show. But we're going to spend the bulk of today on Detroit. Detroit sports, Detroit rebuilds, past championships, current failures, some future optimism that we might have. We're going to talk about a lot of that, mainly him because he got to experience a lot of winning. I really haven't. So after we talk about rebuilds and some difference of opinions, we're going to look at the Greek freak, Giannis Antetokounmpo, where he will sign, where he should sign. We disagree on this one, so that'll be pretty interesting. Stick around for that. And then after that, we're going to look at the top 5 all-time wide receivers in NFL history.
From our first episode, the item that was debated most by the internet back to us was Dan Marino. Dan Marino is a great quarterback, except what did he miss?
No ring.
No ring. In the NFL, if you are a quarterback, you have a significant impact on whether or not you can win a ring. And unfortunately, no rings means no top 5 on the truth. Wide receiver, you have significant impact, but not as much as a quarterback. I want to jump right into Detroit sports. Does that sound good?
Yeah, go for it.
Perfect. 4 teams, 4 jerseys behind us. The Tigers were awesome. 84 Tigers, bless you boys. Lou, Tram, Gibby, Parrish, Jack Morris. They were a lot of fun to watch. After this show, take a few seconds and watch the Gibby 3-run homer off Goose Gossage. That's a fun little stretch of old video from 84 and Old Tiger Stadium, which was a great place to watch a ball game. But then the Tigers also had a 10-year stretch. Verlander, Scherzer, Miggy won lots of games, lots of playoff opportunities, and a lot of meaningful September games. The Red Wings, 2.5 decades they made the playoffs. Lots of flair with a Russian 5. Steve Yzerman, one of the greatest captains in history. That's another good show topic. Nick Lidstrom, underrated defenseman, but probably one of the top 5 defensemen of all time. And then some local tough guys. Probert, McCarty. Wings were awesome for a long time. Pistons, 2 versions of the bad boys. The ones, again, Isaiah, Joe, Mahorn, Rodman, Lambier. Unless you were from Windsor or Detroit, you did not like the Pistons. But they won 2 championships and arguably could have won 3rd more without a couple of phantom foul call and then a little Larry Bird steal that could have been a 4th year. Anyway, lots of success with the Pistons, and then the Pistons were actually the last team to win a championship without a true superstar, right? You know those 5. That was Tayshaun, Chauncey, Rip Hamilton, Rasheed Wallace, and Big Ben Wallace. 2004, actually Isaac went to that parade. Somewhere we've got a picture of Isaac with a Ben Wallace. Is it on our Instagram? Okay, good. With the Ben Wallace wig, it was a lot of fun. The city of Detroit is a huge sports team, and they get behind their winners. Last, I just want to say the Lions, which arguably have been one of the worst franchises in professional sports, 1 playoff victory in 1991, and a lot of people won't remember this, but 91, the debate was the Cowboys or the Lions, who's going to be the team that next decade? Well, I think it's fair to say that the Cowboys won that decade because the Lions have not won a playoff game since that 91 team. Right now, it sucks to be a Detroit fan. There's really no chance of winning playoffs are even pretty much out of reach. The Tigers and the Wings have both accepted the fact that they suck and are in the midst of a rebuild. Tigers got some good young guys, Riley Green, Spencer Torkelson, Skubal. That curveball on Casey Mize is awesome. That gives us hope. The Wings have some good young guys with Larkin, Anthony Mantha, Lucas Raymond, Philip Zadina, Sider in the minors. You see some hope for the future. But here's the debate. The Lions and the Pistons, the two teams that we probably love the most, who's going to be the first team to win a playoff game? And that is our debate. Wings and Tigers not in this debate. Lions, Pistons, who wins a playoff game? Isaac, you're up.
So I'm going with the Pistons. I have the Pistons winning the next playoff game when looking at either the Lions or the Pistons. Now, my main reasoning for this isn't because the Pistons are good. I recognize that they're not that good, but what I also recognize is that the Eastern Conference is not that good. If you look at 1 through 6, they're pretty deep, but after that, it's anybody's spot. It's anybody's spot. Take a look at this year. The 8th seed this year was the Orlando Magic. What separates the Pistons from the Orlando Magic? Their best player is Nikola Vucevic, and he's good, he's underrated. But what's the difference between him and Blake Griffin? Like, I don't see a huge difference with that 8th seed. And then if we look at some of the changing that happens.
And they did steal a game from Milwaukee.
Oh, I'll get there.
2 games?
One game.
One game.
One game. I'll get there. But if you just look at how much the NBA has changed in like 3 years. Look back 3-4 years ago. The Cavs were awesome. That's the LeBron effect. The Cavs were awesome. The Philadelphia 76ers were a joke. The Brooklyn Nets were a joke. The Knicks, honestly, weren't that terrible for a couple of years, which is surprising. So if you look at how things change in 3 years' time, KD's probably going to be sick of Kyrie at that point, so I bet one of them will be gone. Giannis, we'll talk about later, he might be out of Milwaukee. And then some of those fringe teams that are pretty similar to Detroit, take the Chicago Bulls. Very similar to Detroit, I think. Zach LaVine injury is huge for that team. If he were to get injured, that's going to elevate the Pistons over the Bulls 100%. 100%. So I think that the Pistons can squeak into that 8th playoff spot. And if they do get in, how hard is it to take one game from a top seed like Boston or Miami or the Bucks? Now, Orlando took a game from the Bucks this year. The Portland Trailblazers, the 8th seed in the other conference, look at the West. They took a game from LeBron and Anthony Davis. Do you know how much defense the Portland Trailblazers play as a team?
And we play more defense on Monday Night Old Guy basketball than the Portland Trailblazers do.
They play about as much defense as Tom Brady and Peyton Manning do. They're quarterbacks. They don't play defense. Dame and CJ are good, but they can't play defense. So if they can steal a game from Braun and AD, what's stopping the Pistons from stealing a game from one of those teams? And then if you look at the Pistons organization, you need a couple things to happen. You need Sekou Doumbouya to land. You need him to be good. They had 3 picks this year. I like 2 of the 3. I don't love the Killian Hayes pick. If a couple of those guys work out, if Sadiq Bey or Isaiah Stewart is good, that's going to be huge for the Pistons. And then Jeremy Grant. If they get another Jeremy Grant signing next offseason, what's going to stop them from squeaking in? No one thought it was going to happen this year, Jeremy Grant.
How many years? What do you think?
To win? Probably.
To win a playoff game.
It's going to be 3 or 4.
Okay. In my mind, I thought it was 5 years. So although you made up some good points, I actually picked the Lions. And I used a bit of math when picking the Lions. The balance of probabilities indicates that the Lions at some point will be slightly better than average. The way the NFL is set up, it is set up to be a league of parity, right? You go from the bottom to the middle to the top in a 3 to 5 year stretch. Take the New England Patriots out of the equation, that's an anomaly.
The Chiefs.
Yep, the Chiefs.
In the next decade.
Yeah, the Chiefs are going to be good for the next few years, assuming they still hang on to Patty Mahomes. So the balance of probabilities states that the Lions at some point will be good enough to get a playoff win. Did I say Lions? Yeah, Lions. 4 years.
You probably meant to say the Pistons, because that's who. Look,
No. Lions, 4 years. They got some good young guys on offense. They got some good young guys on defense. They have some pieces. Got a couple of nice cornerbacks. Hawkinson, although it's terrible to pick a tight end at number 8, he's a solid tight end. He's actually leading Pro Bowl vote right now. So they got some guys. Stafford is good enough to win a playoff game, or they trade him and then they get a young guy. Realistically, the template is there. Teams like KC, Baltimore, even Seattle when they won, when they were on the Russell Wilson rookie deal. The NFL, you either get a stud Hall of Famer quarterback like Brady, like Peyton Manning, or you run with a quarterback on a rookie deal and you spend your money on defense. So I think Lions, 4 years, win a playoff game. Pistons in 5. So my vote is Lions, and obviously that was my argument. You can let us know via Instagram who you agree with on this point.
So we're not done yet. I have a couple questions. We're talking sports, not math, right? Like, you pulled out some made-up formula to determine if the Lions are...
No, Joe Noon's gave me the formula. It's easy.
Joe Noon's is one of the smartest guys you know. But I'm sorry, but a formula is not going to say you make the playoffs, let alone win a playoff game. If you want to do some numbers, I'll do numbers.
Okay, listen, I am a cockeyed optimist. I think that all the lines are going to eventually win something. Red Wings are going to come back and they're going to win a championship. They're probably 5 or 6 years away. Tigers are probably 7 years away. Pistons, 8 or 9 years away. The Lions, who knows? That might not be ever. But I'm not talking about winning a championship. I'm talking about winning a playoff game.
Okay, a playoff game. So you use numbers. I'm going to use some numbers. Some nice grade 3 probability math that I can understand. Okay? So the way the NFL series work, the playoff series, is 1-1, right? Like, you got one game. You got a wild card game. You got to win that game. If you lose, you're done. Mm-hmm. What's the NBA?
This year was 4-7. Is it 3 out of 5 next year?
They're doing some rule changing in terms of seeding and all that stuff. But let's say it's out of 7, right? Best of 7.
Listen, last episode I talked about how much I love Killian Hayes. He's not going to be good until he's 23. He's only 18 years old. Sekou Naboya is 19 years old. They're young guys. Are young and not very good. That's what. Listen, I think they've got a good base. I just think it's going to take a while for them to get there.
Now let me get my probability. They need 4. There's 4 games. That's right. If you get swept, it's 4 games. They can take one of those games. 25%. They can take a game in a best of 7 series. The Lions, best of 1. They're not winning a wild card game. No way.
Okay, fair enough. Good points. Want to move on to the Greek Freak?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Isaac, why don't you lead into this just a little bit more?
So there's a lot of talk about where Giannis is going to end up, whether he extends and stays in Milwaukee, whether he leaves, or maybe Milwaukee, if they get the sense that he's going to sign elsewhere, they might trade him, which sounds crazy, but they might. So first, let's cover Will. Okay? So I'm going to say he will sign in Milwaukee. He's going to extend in Milwaukee. His contract, it's 5 years, $220 million minimum. That goes up to $250 million. That's tough to say no to. So,
yeah. And I think it's 5 years, 190 if he signs a max with somebody else, and the super max is the 240 range. Does that sound right?
The one I said was the super max.
Yeah.
So if you look at additions, who Milwaukee brought in to have him stay, Drew Holiday is a great, great player. They gave up a ton for him. But he's a really good player. He plays offense and defense. And
ever made an all-star team? I think he made one.
He might have made one, but regardless, in terms of two-way players, especially at the guard position, there's not a lot of that. Not a lot of two-way guards. Because when you think of the best defensive guards, they have no consistent offensive game. Patrick Beverley just yells at people. And although Marcus Smart is really inconsistent, he's working on his offensive game, but it's still not where it could be, in my opinion. So if you look at who they brought in Holiday. They tried to get Bogdanovich. They failed miserably, but they tried, which shows to me that they're not done. They want to bring more for him. And another thing I think we need to think about is the loyalty that Giannis feels to the Bucks upper management. They took a risk on a skinny teenager from Greece. And
they pick him 15th overall?
15th. And I think that Giannis feels that, not that he owes a debt to them, but they were the team that took a chance on him, and it worked out. For those reasons and many more, Giannis is going to stay in Milwaukee.
Okay, good points. Actually, I think Giannis is going to sign with Dallas Mavericks. Luka is the future of the NBA. Ton of fun to play with, ton of fun to watch. He's an unselfish superstar, which is very rare in the NBA. Giannis is an unselfish superstar. And then when you mix in the unicorn, Porzingis, those three guys, you can play with the two of us, and you're a serious competition for the championship. Dallas has created a fun environment down there. Mark Cuban is obviously a little different, but they have shown that they will do whatever it takes to win. I think Giannis goes to Dallas, and they're going to win a championship. Giannis goes to Dallas, and they win a championship.
Another thing to look at with Dallas is their outreach to international players.
Yeah, they've got a history of success, starting with Dirk, but Luka. They've had lots of other guys that have been, other than maybe the San Antonio Spurs, I'm not sure if there's a team that has had greater success with international players.
It's probably those two that come to mind right now. So I like Dallas a lot.
So you think Milwaukee, I think Dallas should. What do you got? So, I don't know who you picked, but I have a pretty decent idea. It has to do with Jimmy Butler, your best friend.
So anybody who knows me knows I'm a big Jimmy guy, I'm a big Heat guy. Giannis should sign in Miami. And it's not ridiculous to say that.
How many Jimmy Butler jerseys do you have?
3.
Okay.
Soon to be
maybe
4.
A little biased? Maybe?
Let me say my points.
Okay.
I'm going to mention Jimmy, but let me mention my points. Giannis is just a dog, and he's a grinder, and he just wants to play basketball and win basketball games. Does that sound like anybody who plays down in South Beach? Jimmy Butler is a dog who just wants to win games. You are telling me that Giannis and Jimmy do not want to team up? That is the perfect duo. As much as I love Bam, Giannis, Jimmy, and then throw in Bam, that is such a good trio. How
old's Jimmy? 30, 31?
He's early 30s, 31A.
See, I don't think Giannis wants to go to 3 teams. I think his first stretch is going to be in Milwaukee, and then he's going to go someplace else. Dallas, I'll tell you where I think he should go, but once you finish your last point with going to Miami.
The Pat Riley factor, he just makes things happen. If you look at his track record, the way that he paired up one of the first super teams of the past X amount of years in the NBA, where he just brought in Braun and obviously had Wade before, and then brought in Bosh. He makes things happen.
Ray Allen?
Ray Allen too, then, yeah. But Pat Riley, just he's a magic man. And no one thought that when they signed Jimmy, they were going to contend, and look at them now. Tyler Hero, they reached on at 13. Look how that worked out. Duncan Robinson, an undrafted kid from Michigan, was the second best shooter in the NBA last year. Like, he was
second best 3-point shooter in the NBA.
Yeah, like, yep. I think that element is going to want to bring Giannis to Miami. The only thing is, from Miami's side, will they lose Tyler Hero? Because it's going to be a sign-and trade with the way they have their contracts worked out since they extended Bam. That's something that they're going to have to talk about. Go ahead.
Okay, good points. I think you should sign in Toronto. And I'm not saying this because of my boys Paul and Beaver and Maynard and McRae and Glennie. Toronto is a perfect fit for the Greek Freak. First of all, Toronto is a very multicultural city. And listen, I don't want to talk political on this show, but the United States pretty much has offended everyone on the planet, and half, maybe slightly more than half of the Americans. So Giannis and his team is going to say, and when I say his team, I don't mean the Milwaukee Bucks. I mean his family and his support network. They're going to say, go to Toronto. Great match for him. Lots of good pieces in place. Pascal Siakam is a great piece. I'm not sure how much longer they've got Kyle Lowry for, but there you go. You got Freddie VanVleet. So Freddie VanVleet, Giannis, Siakam, plus a couple. OJ Anunoby. They got a lot of good young guys. I think he should go to Toronto.
Yeah, the thing that you mentioned with the city there in Toronto, I don't think Giannis is a big party guy. Like, I don't see him going to one of those bigger markets. I think Toronto really does suit him, like it suited Kawhi.
I mean, Toronto's a big city that a couple people have been known to party in there, but it does not have that reputation.
It's not LA.
No, it's not LA.
It's not New York.
It's not New York. Miami's kind of a party city too.
Yeah.
Not that you have that much experience partying in Miami, but
A couple times with Jimmy.
a couple times with Jimmy. Good points on either side. Again, shout out to us and let us know who you agree with on this one.
It's Miami.
Okay. Want to pop into the wide receiver debate? Mm-hmm. Okay, go first. Who you got? So we did know ahead of time when we're doing our show prep. He makes his list. I make my list. They often will have some similarities. I think the number one should be easy for everybody. Mm-hmm. If you don't pick number one the same, you're probably not very smart. 2 to 5, that's where our debate is. Isaac, who do you got for number one?
You're not very smart, or you're a Dallas Cowboys fan. Number one, I've got Jerry Rice. Maybe the greatest player in football history. If you look at every receiving record, Jerry Rice probably has it. And he even got 3 rings with Montana. And speaking of Montana, really, really built up his legacy. Joe Montana's great, but without Jerry Rice, where is he? So I've got Rice number one. No question, really, no question.
Yep, that's easy. I've got Jerry Rice number one. I believe him to be the best player in history. Ran a 4.6 40, but shows you that it's not all about speed. Amazing route runner, amazing hands. He would be called for offsides only because his timing was so perfect. He moved at the exact time that the center snapped the ball, and the refs just couldn't understand how it could be that close. He was amazing, and he was spectacular in the playoffs. It's Jerry Rice all day.
Now, number two, it's all over the place. It's not like quarterback where 1 and 2 is Montana, Brady in whatever order. When you look at wide receiver, there's so many guys that could be at 2. And call me biased because I probably am, but Calvin Megatron Johnson I have as the second best wide receiver in NFL history. Look, if you want to look at it from a physical sense, size, hands, speed, leaping ability, that's never been seen before in the NFL like it was in Calvin. And unfortunately, actually tragically, his career was wasted in Detroit. It was wasted in Detroit, similar to Barry's was. But luckily, most fans can understand, not just Detroit fans, football fans can understand Calvin Johnson was special. He was once in a lifetime player.
I get angry when people are comparing Claypool to Calvin Johnson.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Claypool has played for about 15 minutes, and just because he's a big guy who can run a little bit, he's not even on the same planet.
Yeah, we like Claypool, good Canadian kid, but dude, Chase Claypool, Calvin Johnson, like it's dumb.
Yeah. Listen, CJ's got a lot of good points. He actually has the second best nickname in Detroit sports history. Future topic. Everybody should know what the best nickname is. I've got Randy Moss as number 2. An amazing, amazing talent. He did things that other people in the league just could not do. You think you had him beat, you'd run a 2-deep safety, and he would just blow by a scary athlete. He was a bit of an asshat, but he was a successful wide receiver who you really had the game plan for more than any wide receiver in the last 20 years. So I got Randy Moss as number 2.
I put Calvin up there, but whatever. We'll move on.
Okay.
Number 3, he's an oldie. You got to look him up. Don Hudson. He played in the 30s and 40s.
So this is a 17-year-old propping Don Hudson as one of the best wide receivers. Not a normal kid, Isaac.
Thanks. Get it from you. There's the truth. Guys, do your research. Defensive pass interference, defensive holding, that was incorporated in the 50s. This dude's entire career, he had guys dragging, he was dragging people upfield. They just didn't call it. They didn't have that penalty. So he played through a rough era. And speaking of the era, he was a great wide receiver, the first elite receiver in football history. But Don Hudson, for most of his career, was the Packers' kicker as well as their receiver. And a few times led the league in makes and attempts for extra points. Great kicker, and then played both ways. He played safety. So there was a stretch where he played offense, defense, special teams, and was a safety. He led the league in interceptions in 1940. Last 2 years of his career, dude was an assistant player coach. So he would coach and then go kick extra points and then go catch touchdowns and then go get pick sixes. Crazy.
Okay. Pretty cool. I went with Fitz. I went with Larry Fitzgerald as number 3. Great receiver, a great leader. He's still putting up some numbers. I think he's 36 years old. Love Larry Fitzgerald. He's been a pleasure to watch, and he will be somebody who will have an impact on the game when he's retired from football. I love Fitz. Got to go with him.
In terms of class, not a lot of classy receivers. Fitz and Calvin.
Yep.
We're just pure class in the past couple decades.
Yeah, too many prima donnas, and realistically, I've got a couple prima donnas on my list. Actually, Moss was one, but way too many wide receivers or divas. Fitz is not one.
Now, speaking of divas, at 4, I have Randy Moss. For all the reasons he mentioned, dude was just unguardable. The leaping ability combined with speed hasn't been seen in a lot of guys. The kid had 17 touchdowns in his rookie season. That's unheard of. 17. I think one season he had 23 with Tom Brady.
Yep.
It's nuts.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. Good pick. Obviously, like Moss. Again, not that far a stretch. I've got Calvin Johnson Megatron as number 4 on my list. Again, second best nickname in Detroit sports history. Look up some of his highlights after the show. Lots of triple team touchdowns. Just an amazing, amazing player. His body wore down a little bit, and I think this is, Isaac mentioned it earlier. Calvin Johnson plays on a lot of other teams, and I think he would be recognized right underneath Jerry Rice. He would have played a couple more years, and he probably would have got a couple rings. He was an amazing athlete, a lot of fun to watch. One of the things that I don't know if you'll see some video of him, but when you're on goal line, you play a cornerback right off your wide receiver, and then you put a safety who nudges over. When Calvin would be on the goal line, they would line 2 guys up right in front of him, a yard off of him. You never saw that with anybody else. It was fun to watch, and it showed you how dominant and how afraid they were of Calvin Johnson at the goal line. So I've got him as number 4. Isaac, who do you got as number 5?
Another prima donna for you. T.O. Terrell Owens. I have at 5th. Look, the dude was just a straight gamer. He just wanted to play football and also talk a little crap to the media. But good story about T.O. I was telling you a little bit about this.
Yeah.
Super Bowl 39. 7 weeks before the Super Bowl, he was on the Eagles at this point. He broke his leg and what did he do? Tore a ligament in his right ankle.
Yep.
Tore a ligament in his right ankle 7 weeks.
For Philly, right?
For Philly.
Yep.
7 weeks before, the doc's like, look, you got to get surgery. You'll miss the rest of the year. T.O. said, if I miss the rest of the year, I miss the playoffs and I miss the Super Bowl. So he taped it up. Hot ice. Shout out to Major League.
So he did a Ronnie Lott moment. Not as tough as Ronnie Lott, but maybe in the conversation.
He played through the rest of the season, played in the Super Bowl, barely played. If you look at the highlights, it's actually pretty cool. He was the best receiver in that game, and while they ended up losing to the GOAT, still a great performance, one of the best performances in Super Bowl history. Maybe another future topic. Best performances Super Bowl history.
Yeah, that's a good topic.
But T.O., I've got at 5.
Okay, good points. I've got Steve Largent at number 5. Again, played in Seattle, so he didn't get a lot of the recognition that the East Coast teams got. Under the radar superstar, just put up his numbers. If you look up his stats, lots of Pro Bowls and big career stats. Again, true gentleman. Went on to have a very successful career in politics. I think in Oklahoma was where he was from. Steve Largent from the Seattle Seahawks. I've got his number 5. Honorable mention. You just want to throw out a couple names?
Steve Largent was one of them. Another old dude, Lance Allworth. Look at him. And then Fitz. I had Fitz right up there as well. Okay.
Yeah, some of my honorable mentions, I had Hudson, T.O., and somebody that surprisingly didn't come on either of our top 5s, Marvin Harrison, was an amazing route runner, did a lot of great things with Peyton Manning. So that's closing up wide receivers. We appreciate hearing from you, your thoughts on our top 5. Isaac, why don't you close things off?
Another honorable mention. I probably had him at 6. Chase Claypool. Probably 6.
No.
Stud. He's Calvin Johnson, if you haven't heard.
For sure.
So we'll close things off now. We are going to have the episodes available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, as well as the video on YouTube. However you're hearing or watching us, we appreciate either one or any of the 3. But it will be on all 3 for your viewing and listening experience. And we've got an Instagram up now. It's The Truth with T&I. Again, that's The Truth with T&I.
One word, no caps.
Give us a follow. And if you have any questions that you'd like us to cover on the show, direct message us. We're always looking for stuff. And we would love to include it on the show, give you a shout out. So, hit us with the follow. Message us any tips that you have, because honestly, we have zero idea of what we're doing. Zero.
We are trained professionals. Please do not try this at home. You need to go to the LFX studios if you're going to try this.
So definitely DM us any things that you think that we could do to improve the quality of the show. Obviously, we're doing our best, but we'd love to hear whatever you have to say. And then sponsorship opportunities. Direct message us.
We've already had Urban Paul, the Hustle and Owl from Toronto, and Designs by Urban Paul reach out to us about some sponsorship opportunities, so we need to settle that deal. Merch is a bit of a debate that the Chutners are having. Isaac, tell me what your thoughts are on merch.
We're looking at probably crew necks because they're cooler than hoodies. I'm trying to explain that to him. He doesn't really understand.
I like hoodies.
But now the hood is not cool, so it's crew necks.
Okay.
Crew necks, and then we're thinking of maybe doing masks with our logo as well as toques for the winter season. But again, we're not merch experts either. So message us. Let us know what you think if you'd be interested in anything like that.
We'll get that information out soon because spectacular stocking stuffer.
Dad, you want to close things off?
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody. Isaac, great job as always. He does all the show prep. He does all the tech. All I do is sit down and talk for half an hour, which is really easy for me to do. Thanks, Isaac. Thanks, everybody, for supporting us. We love you all. Have a good night.